Yes, we will have a press release that'll be going out to all the papers, and it'll be something that we're going to
Mrs. Al?
for sure. Yes.
It would be great to put on the school website also, on the High Desert website.
Mm-hmm. We will definitely do that. We have a press release that the Reagan has forwarded to us that gives us all the criteria of what they want us to put in for Sergeant Bikirk, and so for me, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I have met him several times, but for him to come and speak to my students, they've seen him, they feel like they know him, now they get to meet him. So it's fantastic.
Thank
so
you
we
very
sure
much
will.
for everything.
You're welcome.
Mr. President, I'd like to echo what Mike said in regard to inviting our AADUSD students in Agua Dulce. At least put the invitation out there. Considering that we've been accused of doing everything under the sun, and nobody wants to believe us that we actually are trying to enter into a collaborative partnership. Apparently that's too much for people to understand or accept. But it is the truth, and I think in the spirit of that truth, it would be great to invite them and see if they would like to attend that.
Remember when we did the first interim report, we had put a little bit of money in there set aside to do some of those activities to try and recruit and obtain students. That's starting to get underway, and that's part of that effort, but absolutely, we'll talk with Marilyn and see what ways we can either involve them in Medal of Honor with us collaboratively, or keep them in the fold and offer up. And then as Wendy and her staff get together, we can kind of start looking at ways to include them in that enrollment packet.
There are kids, they're primarily from our community, who just chosen a different elementary path, but we want them to come to the junior high. Sure, we got to make sure that happens.
They are our kids.
Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, I had a Dulce parent ask me if their kid can actually go to Einstein. I said, well, of course. Or can they go to Metalwork? I said, I don't know.
Yeah. Without coach, they go both ways. It's schools of choice now. This whole district, pretty much.
So, I think it's a great idea. At least let them know. All right, moving on to 8.0, correspondence proposal for the boards. 8.1, AATA representative. CSEA representative. Ranil, student representative, 8.3. This is the last time, right?
Well, before you get started, if you wouldn't mind, because I want you to give your final report after this. And Mr. Porter, if you could join me up here. Now, because it is your last time, we wanted to recognize you and present to you a certificate of achievement, if you would. And this is again for your outstanding service to the district and to this board. And sitting on the board, we greatly appreciate your time and effort, and obviously we wish you nothing but the best. So, okay.
2011, I personally attended the Young Americans performance, and it was a really valuable experience for members of the firm because it taught them to get out of the comfort zone and to really, because they were solo pieces, so they were really, it was the first time they were having a solo, so it was really valuable experience for a lot of them.
It's very hard to hear you.
Yeah,
It's hard to hear you.
turn them on. There you go.
And just a friendly reminder that Mr. Vasquez's pageant will be taking place on January 30th in Milwaukee at 7 o'clock p.m. Since this is my last board meeting, I just want to express my thanks to Mr. DeVoe for recommending me for the position. Being on the board taught me to be more involved in my school and my peers, which is no doubt going to pay off in the future when I go to college and also in the workplace. So I just want to give my thanks.
You're very welcome. So, can you tell us about Harvard? Any news? No?
All I can say is that I think it went pretty well.
Okay. Wish you the best of luck. Let us know if you're successful, okay? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You've been great. 8.4, annual audit report. Dr. Budraja.
Good evening. I'll share with you folks a little bit about our audit. Let's see. Can you guys hear me? Oh. Hello?
Hello?
There we go. Okay. So I'll share with you a little bit about our annual audit for 2013-14. This is last year. we have our audit complete and finalized. And so I want to talk a little bit about sort of some of the findings in the audit and give you just a brief overview. Typically what happens is the auditors will come into the district before we close the books. They'll ask for records and different types of things from the sites and different departments. They'll allow the district the opportunity to close the books, and then they'll come back and see how you closed and if there were any changes to fund balances and that sort of thing. We didn't have anything like that, unfortunately. When we had the unaudited actuals, those numbers were actually true numbers, so there were no restatements noted in the audit report. So how we ended the year, we ended the year the way we thought we would end the year. And so I'll get into some of the findings as we go through. The first one on here has to do with our fund balances and reserves. Last year was a very challenging year for us from a financial standpoint, but we were able to actually not deficit spend. We had actually about a $65,000 surplus last year, and so fortunately we were able to utilize some funds for maintenance and help balance the budget for the current year. So
Before you go on, let me add to that is that in that particular element, I went back and looked at a few other years. I think it's the first time in the last 7 to 8 years that we've actually not been in a deficit spending pattern. Where we actually have a surplus of, what do you say, 65,492 according to my notes. So again, all things being what they are, we reduced that deficit and now we're ending up in a surplus, and we expect the pattern to continue year after year after year. And that's, again, something I wanted to point out, so thank you.
Right, yeah. So that was the first one, and then going into the second one has to do with cash receiving controls, and basically the auditors wanted us to make more timely deposits. There were times where there's a holiday and sometimes somebody would forget to go to the bank, and so the auditors suggested that we improve that internal control and begin to make deposits in a more frequent manner. I've discussed it with the business office staff, and we've begun to implement that, and we've been doing a better job of taking care of that and addressing the findings. The third area has to do with cash disbursements, and we had some in moving 13, 14 files into one room and then bringing in 14, 15 files. We had some minor areas where there was some paperwork that was misplaced, and so they had noted that, and it wasn't anything, there was no material amount, or it wasn't a major concern. And finally, the fourth one was the ASB at the middle school. The high school looked like they're doing a really good job, and so there's an area of opportunity there to basically tighten up ASB, and I'll work with the site to obviously do that, provide whatever training or necessary materials we need. And so that was it. There were 4 findings. I thought overall it went pretty well. I can recall a time where we had about a dozen findings. Last year I think we were about 7 or 8, so we're down to 4, and I think we're continuing to try and improve internal controls and strengthen processes within the district office and at the sites as well.
Let me elaborate just a little bit on that, and I think Steve hit it, by my count, it was 12. Several years ago, that's quite a bit, and then now it was 6 or 5, or whatever, now it's 4, and I think each year we're really tightly coupling what we do in the organization. Obviously, I'm going to give that directly attributed to Steve and his staff, and Amy and Julie. Those 3 individuals are really doing a great job over at the district office in the financial piece to make sure that when we ask for reports or we ask for different elements, it's in a timely fashion and it's correct in such a way where we clearly know where we stand at all times. And again, I appreciate to you and your staff and making sure this audit is cleaned up. And I see obviously there's some little areas we got to clean up still, rightly so, but it's been reduced down to 4, which is again a fairly low number from what I've seen in other districts. So again, thank you for that, and your staff, please let me know.
Thank you.
Board, any questions from the board?
I did have a question.
Sure.
Do you guys have any questions?
I have one quick note. I think I seem to recall, so I've only been to these annual audits, that ASB might have been at a different school last year, the same.
Comes up. It was actually the same school.
So, okay. Because I was going to say, if they got it under control at the high school, maybe get ahead of it and teach the other 2 schools. So
that's one of the things I
about
talked to Wendy, and that's one of the elements.
Okay.
But again,
I didn't realize it was the same school. I thought maybe we solved it one place and it went astray another. Never mind.
I wish that was the case.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
I had some questions for the superintendent. earlier in the day, they're nothing of true public interest. They're just about account balances and where we were and how we got there. Those were answered to my satisfaction. And the only comment I have is in reading the audit report, I didn't find anything remarkable in it. And anytime you don't find anything remarkable in an audit report, it's a good audit report. They're always going to find something that you need to do or not do or what have you. But you're really looking for remarkable issues. I didn't see any in there. So, in my experience, if there's nothing remarkable in an audit report, it's a good report. So I'm more than satisfied with it.
Thank you, Mr. Justice.
I did have one quick question. Like in the private sector, you'll have all kinds of accounting tools that will give you like a real-time snapshot of where you're at. Is there such things in education that you feel that?
Well, we try to do the best we can. We utilize different types of software. We are forced to use county and state software, which tends to be like a one-size-fits-all. You can't really get custom stuff, and so you tend to see some really antiquated technologies that we're forced to use.
Don't get us started.
So, but we try to do the best we can internally to try to, keep updated on what's going on and look at things from, several. From a long period of time out, so we can anticipate things and that sort of thing. So.
Thank you.
I can tell you what I was saying before is what Steve and his staff have put together, and specifically Steve, around timeliness of information and data. There isn't anything or any request that I get in within 24 hours is back on my desk, and it's correct, and I understand. We have a good conversation about it. It's easily understandable, and I think that's, it's really concise. Especially with the construction piece, we got some things there going on, and dealing with millions of dollars in a short amount of time. And so far, I don't anticipate anything different. It's really well done. And so, as you look at the audit report, Mr. Stasi, there's really nothing remarkable.
After saying about the deposits and stuff, that's about it.
Yeah.
They got to something.
Of course.
But I think we're very blessed to have you on board. Thank you very much for bringing him on board, because I think before there's a lot of fires that you were putting out financially as part of things, and it was taking a lot of your time. And it's great that you're the right fit.
We've got a good team. They're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Corner.
It's just new construction.
Okay, I'd like to do a couple things tonight. I really appreciate Tuesday. We had Mike Fox and 3 bond oversight committee members, which was Kimberly Clemens, Bob Gillespie, and Mike Ricochet. We all went to Bakersfield and we toured the facility where they're currently constructing our modular buildings for Vasquez High School. Toured the plant, toured the facility, had every question you can think of.
Is that the same place you and I went to before?
Yes, it is actually, but this time it's our building.
Now you're watching.
Yeah, so we saw them through the assembly line and got to see each of the buildings that they're currently working on and when they're going to be delivered, et cetera. And so we had a good opportunity to have a conversation with everyone. I appreciate you guys coming and taking the day and the time to come up there. It's a lot. But in addition to that, I think that Bob is going to be incorporating that into his report as a bond oversight committee. And as Lillian knows, secondly, Lillian and I and Dorothy Daniels toured the Vasquez site yesterday, and she's writing an article in the paper, and I appreciate her time and effort to do that. And what, again, as part of that is, she's on the bond oversight committee as well, but they're going to put together a committee report, which is required. So we will have that here shortly, and they're looking at all the expenditures and ensuring that they're appropriate, et cetera. And so I believe, I can't remember our deadline or our time. Do you remember, was it June? We're going to give a report, do you remember? Secretary. Secretary.
Yes, but I'm not responsible.
Put you on the spot,
Memorize
sorry.
things.
Yeah, I know.
I think it was within the first few
I
months.
thought it was before the end of the year. I think we should have a good report for you, but.
No, by spring.
Oh, what was it?
It was, I
Okay.
think it was for spring.
Okay, great.
Something.
Yeah, I can't remember either, but I appreciate that. But, Bob wanted to go and view, and then the last piece of what we're going to do is I'm going to do the same invitation, and again, you guys are welcome to come, and the bond oversight committee as well, but again, you got to make sure you advise me if you want to come, so that I can post it if necessary. But if we meet on campus, the last thing they wanted to do was come when we're going to set a building. So the next building that's going to come, I believe, is the Culinary Arts Building, which is also the, if you will, band choir building. So I'll put out an invitation and let everyone come, and if you guys want to see that, you want to tour the campus, see what's currently there, what they currently set, be happy to set that up, and so I'll put that out to you again. But we'll have another visit, and then I know Lillian and several other folks have requested that they wanted that there. I'll afford you, obviously, the opportunity to do that as well. We'll get a tour of the site, okay?
Thank you very much.
Last thing I wanted to talk about on the construction piece. One of the, I'm going to call it a major change, but it's really, it's not a major change, but for me, if you take a look at the flooring in the gymnasium, as you know, we had a lot of issues surrounding that gym and what are we going to put in because it's an NPR, we'll be eating in there, and we also have a lot of meetings in there. We have a stage and a drama program, etc. So we wanted to make sure that the floor would hold up to the use and abuse of multiple programs. So Will went on a couple trips, Gary and I went on a couple trips. We went to Long Beach, the university, we went to multiple schools across the Southland that have this, what's called a Mondo all-purpose floor. Talked to maintenance guys, talked to custodians, talked to the principal, etc., etc. Really took a look at what the floor was and it played with a bunch of kids. And we really were able to determine that's an inappropriate floor for a high school. And the reason being, in several of them they were eating on them, and the oils, because it's two oil-based products, the floor was an oil-based product, and say for example in one school they were eating a bunch of popcorn. And the popcorn would spill out, of course, on the floor, and it has oils all over it. Well, it would hit the floor in certain sections. And you couldn't seal it, and there was, this issue and that issue, etc. And then we went over to Long Beach State and looked at it from a competition standpoint. I don't know if you've seen the pyramid, but it's an amazing facility. But as you take a look at that and you look at all the high schools and the gymnasiums, we really had to put a competition floor in there, which is a suspended wood floor, like a typical gymnasium floor. So we're going to go back to a suspended wood floor. And we're making the necessary adjustments now. There may be a change order. I don't know what and what. We've already accounted for that flooring, but we are going to now go back and there's a slight difference in the concrete height and some different things. So the credit may offset any of the other, but I'll let you know. But it will be
the current credit.
The current credit.
Yeah.
So my hope is again that it's an offset and it's a wash. We'll see. I'll let you know when we come closer, but the only other consideration is we're going to have to buy covers for the wood floor. It's just no way I get it out. Either I buy covers and cover the rubber floor, or I buy covers and cover the wood floor. You'd rather have a CIF competition floor for volleyball, for basketball, etc., etc. And so that's what we're going to be going to. There's one other consideration. Mark knows this as well, is the maintenance issues are going to be higher. It's just that simple. I was trying to get away from that and not have all the maintenance where you got to strip it, you got to then, keep that coating on it. And that's a once-a-year task. Will's planning for that now. He's going to, gear up for that and see.
And it all comes down to whether the maintenance is worth the competition for.
Yeah, and at this point, we evaluated, he evaluated it. We all sat down and looked at it, and we just, it's just because remember that you may have damage the other way if you're going to be eating on it all the time. You have oils on the floor, so. Either way, it felt like there was going to be an offset of maintenance. The rubber floor is not maintenance free. There's stuff you need to do to it. Plus, kids, they got gum on one section, and then another one, a kid had spilled an ink pen, and there was ink all over the floor, and they couldn't get it up. They couldn't get the ink out of the rubber. It was really weird. So, it just wasn't something I was happy with, to be honest with you. So we kind of nixed that idea. We're going to go back to a wood floor. And I'll get you updated status on that.
And the cover's in place most of the time unless there's a, for the lunch use and everything else, you just take it
Well,
off?
probably not, because they're going to do PE in there almost daily.
So the
Okay,
covers will go on when it's...
Yeah, remember we talked about, one of the issues, as you know, was we need to take a look at and consider a custodian, maintenance type person. That would, prior to lunch, if we're going to use that, we also have the NPR, which would be building K, it's that big building. Normally, kids will still eat outside. When we have inclement weather, yeah, we're going to need a custodian, maintenance person, whatever we decide on, to cover the floor, and then obviously roll it back up. And they make them now where it's on a big roller, like a pool cover, and then you just roll it out, spread it out, and it's easy to get back and forth and on and off. So We looked at several, we're currently looking at them, but that will be an expenditure.
We'll evolve through this process and see where it comes
And
out.
we were gonna have to buy one on the rubber floor, either way. There's no way we could just eat on that floor, or, but, you know, sorry, ladies with heels poking holes in the floor, things like that during types of events. And we saw several of those markings in the floors we visited. Just, it didn't make sense, to be honest with you. So,
I'm glad you're looking.
The key, I mean, none of this is surprising. The key is to develop that rollout mechanism where somebody's not laying down 6 foot by 6 foot pieces of,
no,
that this has to be in 1 or 2 sections at most.
it's big tarps, and then they spread out, and it's an electro thing that
But
winds it back up.
Sometimes it can be hard to figure out where to install them, considering that you have bleachers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do they go in front of, behind, how do they go? Do they suspend from the ceiling?
Yeah.
So that's something that Gary and the project team will have to look at.
That's our next task, is we're gonna go down and look at some other schools with floors and see some of those mechanisms and start to
That's
select
the
that
only
stuff.
thing that we need to be smart on.
Yeah, I agree.
So that you don't need a team of infield people to roll out the tar when it rains and have 85 custodians there to roll it all out.
But if you have graduation or you have a big event or something, you know, obviously we'll need staff to be able to pull that out and obviously put it back up and take a good, you know, make sure we're taking care of that floor. But there won't be
Every floor has to
maintenance.
be covered.
It does.
Every time.
Unless you're going to get, you know, CDT, this floor like this, you play basketball on that? That's not good. We can't have that. So we're going to go back to a full-blown CIF competition floor.
Well, it comes down to what the price of maintenance is gonna be, and it comes down to what the price difference between what we
Right.
allocated for currently, you know. So once, I mean, from what I hear, it sounds like you don't think it's gonna be that much of a difference, and any credit we get might cover it.
That's my hope. I shouldn't, you know, overpromise.
Of course, if it came back and you're like, damn,
Yeah.
the wood is 3 times the price, right?
We have more than the credit. The overall project is less.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We may have to lead over phase 1 to phase 2.
Budget capacity, so.
The money's in
Half
the
of that
budget.
is spent already, though.
It's not that big of an issue.
Anyway, Ranil actually had an observation.
I was gonna say that you can keep in mind that we save a lot of money on the transportation. Compared to that, we have girl games that aren't even at the school,
Yeah.
for basketball and we're going to go somewhere else.
That's
We
true.
save a lot of money having that business.
It's another offset.
That's good, you're right. We're going to definitely save money on that.
Something
I'm
else?
going to tell you one more thing. I wanted to mention to the State Allocation Board and the status of the funds that are going to be delivered to the district. As you can imagine, the State Allocation Board was set to meet in January. They did not meet, they didn't have a quorum. And so, and the next board meeting is until February, don't quote me, the 28th, I believe. And so our allocation is on that agenda, it's on the consent calendar. We don't expect any issues, but it's been kicked back a month in terms of delivery of the money, simply because, again, there's some issues there with the quorums. So I just wanted to let you know, we still have not received those meetings, but we don't expect any issues or problems, because it's on the consent, and there won't be any discussion at all. Or, obviously, I can go up to Sacramento, but we don't anticipate any issues. I just want to make sure. That's all I have.
Let's just keep the state solvent.
Exactly. Mr. Fox, if you could come with me up here, I'd appreciate it. Simply because I think you know a little bit about the Boy Scouts. Okay.
A little bit.
I have 3 individuals here tonight I wanted to recognize. And I'm going to give you their names over there for you. Okay, so if you would, I'd like to have these, I think all 3 of them are here. Jack Ryan Lawrence. Can you come on up? That's a great name, by the way, Jack Ryan. You got
Do you want to take off your sweatshirt?
Yeah, there you go.
I'm sure there'll be a photo.
Next, we'd like to have Devin Musil. I probably butchered your name. Sorry, Devin. Come on up. And then Chris Trotta. And each one of them did a little bit different, and maybe they can tell us a little bit about what they did and why they did it and those kinds of things. But we'll start with Jack, if you would. Basically, he did a desert scape around the flagpole area, Acton School. And can you tell us a little bit about why and how
the badge, et cetera, the process of how you ended up volunteering to do that project?
I talked to Mr. Simmons, asked him what I could do to help out the community, the school district, and told me he wanted fence put in and the area cleaned up, so.
Okay, awesome. It looks great, by the way. If you get a chance to take a look at it, phenomenal job. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And then Devin, he rebuilt and painted announcer's booth at VHS football field. Again, you talked a little bit about that, badges or anything that you received or that you're working towards?
I'm going for my Eagle Board of Review in next month, so that's a big deal for me. Basically the reason I did what I did as a project was I've been on the football team for 4 years. We had a great season this year, and going along with the great improvements we've been having campus-wise and building a whole new school and everything, I thought it'd only be right to refurbish and make our announcement booth look a lot better than it was as is. So.
Fantastic, thank you. You did a great job as well, and again, much greatly needed and appreciated. And then Chris, he built 2 kiosks at the High Desert campus. If you can, again, tell us a little bit about what you were going for and maybe how you ended up on that project.
Well, I ended up on that project. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do, so I went to Miss Nahar. She was the principal at the time when I first found this project. And I went there and asked her what she needed, and she said she was already looking for putting some on campus, but she said it would be more desirable if it could benefit the community more than one way than just for the school, if it would help Boy Scouts too. So I helped out with that. And just
awesome.
built that.
And these young men, along with, I think, I don't know, I'm sure.
Are
if
you
you're
the scoutmaster?
Is that correct?
I'm an assistant scoutmaster and his staff.
Oh, okay, absolutely, nothing wrong with that. But periodically, we get these gentlemen and these young gentlemen that come in and they offer their services. Can't tell you how much we appreciate your time and effort. We know it's selfless, and we wanted to just thank you in public. We have a couple different appreciations, if you would, Mike.
May I confer a
Of
moment?
course.
I'm a scoutmaster. Mr. Torado was a scoutmaster with me. Chris was one of my Weeblos. Even before that, one of my Cub Scouts. For those of you who are not aware of scouting, what these guys have done is an incredible feat. It really is. About 1% of all kids that start scouting, and usually they start in kindergarten or first grade, only 1% make it to Eagle rank. And I really don't know of any similar type of achievement there is in youth activities that takes quite that much time. Because these guys have basically been at it since kindergarten or first grade. Devin's your senior or junior? Senior. And so it really is a youth-long commitment, and they just keep plugging and plugging and plugging and plugging at it, and it culminates with the Eagle projects, and that's what you heard about tonight. And those are projects that have, I don't want to go into the statistics, but they have minimum number of volunteer hours that you have to get volunteers on the job. You can't do it yourself. There's a minimum amount of dollar value that typically you have to raise for the project. I'm not sure about that one. It is student planned and executed. So in that regard, it's much like some of the projects that the kids start doing when they get to college, except maybe even a little more so because they're actually responsible for getting manpower for it. So it's amazing, and I applaud you guys for doing it. I hope my son will be there this spring. And I'm also Scoutmaster. If I'd known, I would have been in uniform tonight. Thank you. I mean, congratulations. It's great. 1%.
Okay, 8.7, board member comments. Mr. Fox.
Yeah, I just have one brief one. I am ecstatic about what I saw at the factory for the school construction. You know, in the beginning, just because of the journey you guys took, I wasn't around for most of it, I felt as if maybe we were settling for the way in which we procured the campus, and we should not feel that way at all. I mean, you look at those buildings, and they are built rock solid. They are stick frame buildings. They're better because they've got these
metal I-beams like this every 12 feet in the walls and across the ceilings. It's actually remarkable. And then when you look inside the walls, you can see things like all the electrical is in solid conduit like they used to do in the old days versus how they do it now where it's in rubber or Romex. And for a school that's important because somebody's going to put a nail through the wall to hang a picture or something. And there's actual conduit there.
Let's hope not.
Well, you know, the plumbing.
It'll happen.
The plumbing is all. There's no plastic plumbing. So if anybody thinks in a second that the way in which and the quality with which your school is being built is in any way substandard, it's just not. And I think it's actually better. And the reason it's cheaper is obvious when you're there on the site. You know, nobody's standing around on their shovel. We're not paying for people to stand around on their shovel, waiting for a subcontractor to arrive, wait for that subcontractor to arrive, wait for the materials to arrive. It's all there, and so they get incredible efficiencies, and we benefited from that. But I don't think we've forsaken anything in the quality of what I saw. It was remarkable. One of the, and I'll just add, because I don't know anything about construction, one of the bond oversight committee members is a lifelong union carpenter, and his comment was, you know, this is the future, and I felt the same way when I was there. So I think everybody would be really pleased with what rolls in.
You can't tell the difference. Like if you go to the finished product and you go inside, you wouldn't think that's a manufacturer.
No, in fact, so I happened to mention that back when we were voting on this, and I was concerned about the way we were building the school and was going to be durable. And I went and looked at Golden Valley High School down in Canyon Country, because that's Hart High School District's newest school. And I happened to mention that to the guys on the site, and they said, "Oh, well, we built all the buildings in the back." So we're hardly doing something new also, and that was also one of my concerns. When I was in there was snooping, I got there early. And I just saw all the contract books, the labels, Pomona School District, this school district, that school district. So it's not as if we're paving new ground. You know, you don't want to be the first. It's good to be progressive, but you want to be the first. And by no means are we. So I think everybody's going to be really pleased when they get inside there. But anyway, I made a believer out of it.
Mike, thanks for going out there. Thanks for taking the time to do that. Initially, when we were trying to decide if we're going to go in this direction or not, you and I could drive out there, and I was equally impressed, and I thought that with the limited knowledge of construction I have, just in residential construction, I think things like you mentioned, like the metal beams, and just the engineering that goes into it, the solid concrete floors, right? And even the inside the concrete, they have that metal framing for the concrete, and it's kind of a mesh stuff inside the actual concrete, and concrete's 10 inches thick. So I don't think we're compromising quality or anything. And Bob is probably right, that is probably a way of the future where a lot of buildings are going to be built that way.
Well, with the lack of school funding through the state, it's almost a necessity now.
They're building more schools now.
That's also, well, because of the reduced cost, also, and the reduced allocation from the state, all school districts should work to it for the financial.
And Bakersfield Airport is maybe like those people.
Well, universities are doing it too. We went to the university, and I saw Cal State Bakersfield uses them like crazy. And then you look at the state match and the differences. It used to be, you know, where they would fund the majority of it. Now it's 50 to 60% to 70%. In some cases, it's hard to keep up with the state match. They match less and less, and obviously they don't even have it in the school construction program
So,
now.
you know, my point was it's not a quality thing.
No.
It's an efficiency thing. They're just more efficient
Exactly.
because the people are all there where the work is.
And it is of higher quality.
I think it is actually.
And
Anyway,
you know,
thank you for the opportunity.
You bet. It was fun.
Thanks.
Yeah, somebody probably ought to call our school district to our south and give them a news flash that we're not about to be taken over by the state with our budget or anything. We keep hearing that propaganda.
Well, I've been to.
All the evidence would suggest that that's certainly not the case.
What can you talk about the letter you just received in your packet that we are now certified as positive? So we just recently received that. I should have mentioned, I meant to mention that in the audit, but we were
recently certified by LA County as positive, which again means we plan to make our reserve at the end of the year, so very true.
Mr. Douglas was fine there, interesting. All right.
We only missed it by 245,000. It's okay.
Anything else?
Yes, I was asked to inform and invite the board to the Albert Einstein Academy, Partnership Academy at Agua Dulce School. We've all been invited to attend their February 7th, 9 a.m. to noon Family Fun Day. I was supposed to bring the flyer, and I left it in my printer because I'm an irresponsible board member, so I didn't pull it out. So I'm staring at it on my phone. And I'll just verbally tell you that it's a family fun day. They're going to be reopening the science lab. Yeah, which started at the old Agua Dulce school, and so that's a grand reopening. It's a $5 per person pancake breakfast. There's a lot of activities for kids. There's a climbing wall, a video game truck, there's tours of the campus. Students will be performing. And again, we've been invited by the Academy to attend. So any of you that wish to do so, again, it's February 7th from 9 to noon. And I don't know.
Mr. Nathan?
No, see.
We're moving on to 9.0, consent agenda, minutes from the last meeting, and the warrant register from this agenda. Do I have a move?
Move.
I'll second.
Thank you. Are we good with the minutes? Yes. All in favor? Aye. 401. 10.0, educational student services. 10.1, resolution 14-15-08, AEA LAS STEAM amended. So we have the amended document here. Has everyone had a chance to read that?
Yes.
Let's move this in. Do I have a move to move it?
Move.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Mr. President, if I could give you a brief summary of what this is. If you remember at the last board meeting, the board approved the petition of Einstein. And however, there was an amended version of it, and so between legal and myself and Lucy, and then obviously as the secretary, we did not sign the petition yet because of the amendment. We gathered all the information, and this is the actual amended resolution. So what, if anything, you approve tonight is the amended resolution as per what was voted on and approved at the last meeting. So this is an encapsulation, if you will, of the resolution only, not approval of the petition, but amendment of the resolution, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Okay.
Effectively, all the amendment is the inclusion of the additional.
Correct.
Document that could all be
Correct.
That's correct.
There was an inclusion of that, and then it also was to accept the staff report.
It took about 15 work pieces to say that.
I know.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Nay. Okay, 3-1-1. 3 in favor, 1 nay, and 1 absent. 11.0, personnel services. Resignation of classified employee numbers 141566 and 141551.
Move.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
11.2, resignation, release of certified employees. Employee number 141567. Do I have a move? Mark discussion. Do I have a second? I'm actually going to vote nay on this. I'm not going to accept it. So you have to if I can get some more to join me.
Well, I already talked
got
to
my
her,
vote.
so I
Yeah, I know.
can't. I know why.
All in favor? Aye.
You want to explain to people what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
I think it's
that's
appropriate,
important.
it is Megan Freeman has resigned from the Director of Ed Services, Student Services. And, I'll let her talk to folks and do whatever she wants, but I mean, ultimately, all of those folks at the back of the table are gonna hate to see her go. She services the district in pretty much every area you can think of in the district. And, it's bittersweet for her to do this, but at the same time, I kind of begged her to stay another year. She wanted to kind of resign last year, but, so she did a favor to me and a favor to everyone at the back of the table. And so again, Megan, I don't know, if you'd like to address the board, that'd be great.
Wow, the rumors flew today about why I'm making this really tough choice, and Dr. Willard is absolutely right. When I started this district 4 years ago, I had a great journey and a great vision about what my leadership would be like. And life happens, and I have 3 beautiful children, and my decision today isn't because I don't love my job. In fact, I love it immensely. I love this community, and it's been nothing but supportive of me. All of the rumors I've heard today, from I'm going to law school to you can imagine it, are not true. What is true is I am a mom first. And when I'm looking at my career path, I have to make sure that I'm balancing being a mom, a single mom, with my career passions and goals. And so when I'm out of whack, I have to make tough choices. Very similar to what I do on a daily basis here, and this time personally affects all of you that I've worked so dearly with. I'm going to continue to serve the district until the end of June. I will forever be a part of this district. My children will continue to attend here. But at this time, I'm going to take some time to breathe and to figure out what I can do so I get myself back in balance and make sure that I put my children and my family first, and then also pursue my dreams in a career that will give me a little more flexibility to be able to do that. So it's with a heavy heart that I am here today with this, but truly with intentions to work hard until the end of June, because I believe in this district and what we're doing. I'm so very, very proud to have been a part of laying the foundation of what I believe is going to be a very successful future. So thank you for this outstanding opportunity, and I look forward to serving you until the end of June.
And we all read your resignation letter, and I think it was very heartfelt and very sincere. And I appreciate and believe that you're going to give your 100% till the end of the year, because that oftentimes doesn't happen in situations like this. And I've seen that many times where there's either a non-reelect or a resignation where a person is putting out maybe 10%. So I really appreciate that, and we appreciate that you send a letter that your children are going to attend the district, and anything that you're doing now is going to benefit them down the line. And I really want to commend what you went through in the last couple of years with your husband. You really behaved in a very graceful manner in relation to your job. And you were always there 100%, so I really want to thank you for that, for your service. Good luck. All right, 11.3. I'll second that. This is 11.3 is for the approval of certificated personnel, employee number 141568, Spanish teacher for VHS. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. 401, that's effective date 1/23.
Really excited about this team, by the way. We're very happy to have her. I mean, the staff is, just incredible over there at Vasquez. And so this is just another cog in the wheel, if you will, and it's another good staff member, and they got a great staff.
What's the start date?
What's that?
Start date?
As soon as the print's clear. Just approved it yesterday. Print's will clear, hopefully in a week, and then she'll be on the way.
So this effective date 1/23 is just
It's tentative based on as soon as she signs her contract.
DOJ.
Her official.
Excellent, thank you, guys. 11.4, approval of classified personnel. It's recommended that the board approve the following classified personnel. Employee numbers, all starting with 141, 574, 573, 571, 572, 569, 570, 575, and 577. Do I have a move? All in favor? Aye. Approval of coaching personnel. This is for boys basketball at VHS. Employee number 141576.
I'll move. Second. Who seconded?
Mark Gustafson. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. 12.0 business and financial. This is for change order number 4, James E. Thompson Incorporated, DBA, JTS Construction.
I'll move. Second.
Has it been written James E. Thompson, Inc., doing business as JTS Construction before?
Yes,
Before I used to always see it as J.
I believe so. I think it's written exactly as is.
Okay, very good.
If I can, before you vote, if you will, if you look at the summary of the change order and the outline, there's 3 items, A, B, and C. Keep in mind, again, this is a credit. This is not a change order. This is actually some credits that's going to come back to us. And at the very top of that document, under change order number 4, we changed the format just a little bit, just so that we can begin to kind of track it in terms of where we're at on the change order values. Change order 1 was worth $46,000. Change order 2 was $131. We had a change order 3, which was a credit, and now a credit of $37,177. So the difference is the original contract amount was $11,107,000. That reduces the contract amount now to $11,031,000. So it's actually a reduction in the total guaranteed maximum price, as we had talked about with the changes and the omissions in phase 1, and then changing it to phase 2. So it's a number to the good to the district. However, that doesn't mean you get to spend it. It's still in the total contract price. And when we do closeout, then we'll be able to say, okay, how much is left? $100,000, $50,000, $2. Then we can decide, and then it rolls over to phase 2 and phase 3, and we'll go through that process.
And even then, there will be unforeseen things. It's not like you can just spend it.
Exactly. So I just wanted to explain
Thank you.
the variance that we gave.
You can't spend it anyway because the big credit of $200,000 actually moves into the other school.
Exactly.
Because that was for the low voltage stuff.
Either way, you're going to spend it, so I don't want you to think we have all this money.
But it's in the right.
Yeah.
I do. We didn't move this in. I'm going to move it in. Do I have a second?
We already moved this in. We're talking about change order 4.
You do? I didn't write it down. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, so I moved it and Mark seconded.
Okay, thank you. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I got a question.
So, the $35,000 credit for storm drain consolidation, what's actually going on? Did we change the plans since?
No, here's what happened. There was unforeseen conditions in the ground. There was an existing storm drain pipe, and there was no way, unless they would have punched all the way down, to be able to find this particular pipe that was in the ground that was abandoned. So as we got into the undergrounding and the construction of it, they ran into that pipe. And so they had to do additional work and do some things.
Oh, okay, so
that was
one of the
unforeseen.
uppers before.
That was in the underground, when it was originally excavated, and we did all the trenching.
Okay.
So that was,
But this is a credit.
well, that's because, again, I think it's, in this case, the additional funds, the landscaping plan was implemented. But in this case, it's the storm drain consolidation, this one. But remember, the last one was an actual, not a credit, but it was an expense.
Right.
Oh,
Quick question on the projector.
sure.
So it looks like there's a, I'm not worried about sticking on glass. It's, I read it, it's because they're not going to be ceiling mounted, they're going to be wall mounted. Is that right?
Actually, no, we're not going to use them at all. And the difference is Ty, and we have a couple of different folks over there that are going to what's called a Q conference. In their preliminary investigation, the pull-down screen is honestly archaic. They don't have those anymore. We found some technology that actually goes on a whiteboard, where teachers can use the whiteboard and a screen, and it's a multi-purpose piece. That's much better for instruction. So
Okay.
It's an upgraded technology, and we took it out of the original design. Remember, this was 2-3 years ago.
Right, the only reason I said what I did is because that's how it's going to question.
Yeah.
The district requests a revision from the ceiling mounted projectors to wall mounted.
But,
And what-
yeah, because the wall mount is actually a whiteboard. So it's not a pull-down screen projector at the
got
ceiling.
it. Thank you.
It's still a projection screen, but it's a different configuration.
All right.
Any further discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
12.2, change order number 1, James E. Thompson Incorporated, doing business as Gateways Construction, Vasquez High School Project Phase 2. It's recommended that the board approve change order number 1. Do I have a move? I'll second it.
May I explain this a little bit? We had talked a little, I don't know, I think we talked about this, but this is that builder's risk insurance credit. Originally, it was in the guaranteed maximum value contract. Well, I got together with a couple different insurance agents, and we took a look at purchasing it ourselves, and we're able to do it at a much reduced cost. It's a couple $1,000, guys, but it was worth the effort to be able to do that. And I know, it's not a significant amount, but every dollar counts in this project, and so we were able to save a couple $1,000 as a result. So you'll see that expenditure, but it won't be $11,678. So this is a credit off the guaranteed maximum price.
Doctor, would every case like this counts, and I appreciate you doing this, and I know there's not a way for us to truly know all the different ways that you do this, and we try and get the best deal possible and exhaust every option possible.
Well, we called Keenan, and they were great. I specifically called Keenan, Lucy called Keenan, we all were, and they gave us all kinds of different quotes, and we were able to get it down in such a way where we save money, and it's worth the effort to do that. So the whole team really put that together, and Jim helped out a lot too, so
Thank you very much.
you bet.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
13.0, future agenda items. We have the late start school day study for VHS. We put this on the last meeting. Anything you want to put on future agenda items? Okay. Moving on to 14.0, our next meeting is February 12th and February 26th after that. So that calendar is remaining as is, correct? No special?
We've got to talk about that at some point. We need to set some special study sessions. I think at the next board meeting, I'd like you to start thinking about potential budget studies in the March timeframe, and then Steve and I will come up with some recommendations based on May revise potentially and some other things. If there's specific things you want to talk about, we can start talking about them, but yes, thank you. I'm not obviously ready for that yet, but there's no doubt we need to start setting those meetings so you guys are prepared.
I think March.
Well, yeah, we'll take a look at that. I'll get some data from Steve based on when things come out from the state, and as we get different information. It looks like the budget's going to be fairly positive, but we don't know yet definitively in the governor's budget.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
15.0 closed session. We had no closed session today. 16.0 adjournment. Do I have a move? Second? Thank you. All in favor of adjournment at 8:41 p.m.?
Aye.
Aye.